Welcome to the No More Late Fees podcast. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Danielle, and we're just two best friends and ex-Blockbuster employees rewatching some of the best and worst movies from the late 90s and early 2000s.
We're putting on Vera's best this week and stalking a cute boy all the way to Somerset to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the comedy The Sweetest Thing. And we're joined by my sister, Heather. Welcome!
Yay. Hi, guys.
I'm back. I'm back.
But before we dive in, let's get into some housekeeping. If you love the podcast and you want to support us, here's a few ways you can. You can become one of our Patreon besties and gain access to a whole shitload of content, stickers, ask me anything, polls, bonus videos, live Spotify playlists, and more. Just head on over to patreon.com/no-more-late-fees.
And if money is tight, no worries. You can really help us by writing us a review. Did you know writing a review and or rating us helps us get more listeners? Here's a great one that was left on Podchasers by our pod pals, Nostalgic Pod. I don't know how you thought I could read this, Jackie. This is small.
I can read it and it's minimized for me.
Yay.
Where are your glasses, Danielle?
Mind your business.
Your face just gets real big and close to the camera.
Okay. These are the types of personalities you want to hang with and watch/talk all the way through a movie with. They review parts and segments from 90s/2000s movies that not only make you laugh, but also want you to rewatch the movie they're cracking up about. 5 stars.
Thanks, y'all.
And we've got exciting news if you haven't heard already. We have merch. That's right. You could be wearing the No More Late Fees logo on all your shit. We got, I was going to say TVs, but we don't got that. We got.
Did you turn into like a used appliance salesman?
I did. We've got t-shirts. We've got blankets. We've got hats. We've got notebooks. Hell, we even got backpacks, stickers, anything that you freaking want. So if you go to redbubble.com/people/no more late fees, you can see all of our merchandise and rock No More Late Fees and support us, which is even more exciting.
Danielle gave me a hard time because I already ordered a bunch for myself and I got socks.
I'm not giving you a hard time. I just was surprised that you were surprised that I hadn't bought merch yet when I was just trying to get all of our shit done and I didn't even realize that we were doing this. But by the time this episode rolls out, I would have ordered some merch, 100%.
Yeah, she was impressed with your quickness, Jackie.
Yes.
And I will have already done my unboxing video.
I'll just try to see what's left at the store and buy that.
Okay, so The Sweetest Thing. 20 years ago, we were introduced to the holy trio of female crude comedy, Christina, Courtney, and Jane. They are 3 girls about the town who are looking for Mr. Right Now. Christina has a chance encounter with Peter, a guy from Somerset, and is immediately smitten. The girls then go on a crazy road trip to find Peter, hoping he will be Christina's Mr. Right. It stars Cameron Diaz, Christina Applegate, Selma Blair, Jason Bateman, and Thomas Jane. The screenplay was by Nancy M. Pimentel. It was directed by Roger Cumble, and you can watch it on Netflix.
But before we start, let's get into our ratings rewind.
So you know the drill. Before we get into the movie, we'll reveal the rating our Y2K versions of ourselves would give. Then at the end, we'll see if our current selves agree with our initial rating. Our scale consists of would buy it again,
The best, would play on repeat,
5-day rental,
would watch again,
2-day rental,
okay, but nothing to write home about,
and same-day rental.
What's in that glory hole? It's trash.
Excellent, excellent job.
Living up to my hype. Like it.
Heather,
All right.
what's your Y2K rating?
It would be absolutely would buy it again. I love this movie. This is such a quotable for me, rewatching it just recently for this episode. I kept trying to keep them like, do you hear me when I say that? Do you understand it now? Because I say these things all the time. So would buy it again, 100%.
Same. Our first exposure to this movie
I love learning things when you share our memories.
Buckle up. So every year we would go to Reno with the Chivers. Nick was on our Monsters Inc. episode, lifelong friends. Miss Terry was really good about after every meal, she like threw $20 at us and then like said, I'll see you at dinner. And so we would go blow our $20 at Circus immediately and then be bored. And we had carte blanche to rent any like not naughty pay-per-views, but like any pay-per-views that were like appropriate in the hotel room just to keep us busy. And so we rented Sweetest Thing and you could watch it as many times as you wanted to for like 24 hours. And we sat and we watched it and it was the unrated version because we got to the penis song, which we'll get back to later. And we're like, this is the best thing ever. And there is a photo of Heather, Liz, and myself. Like one, it's like the hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, but it's like mouth, butt, and vagina because we were so obsessed with this movie during our Reno trip. And so it's
like
been
that was a
ingrained
new
ever
story.
since.
I don't remember any of that, but that now, like as you're saying it, I'm like, yeah, we did watch that with Liz and Nick.
Yep.
It's such a good movie.
And
How
then,
about you, Danielle?
and then Jackie came home and made me watch it. And yes, I give it a 5-day rental.
It's not going to be an employee pick in 2022, and that hurts my heart.
Sorry.
It's fine. You're allowed your opinion.
Sorry. I looked, I didn't have it.
I know. It's
Sorry.
okay. It's okay.
I liked it when we saw it. Agree with our Y2K ratings or absolutely disagree? Head to our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or TikTok at No More Late Fees and let us know. All right, let's look at the box office numbers. So the budget for this movie was 43. Say what? Where the hell this money went? $43 million?
There were a lot of on location, except for there is a Somerset in Northern California. It's over kind of on the way to Lake Tahoe, but it was not shot in Somerset. I was all ready to do a road trip. I'm like, I want to drive by that little square and see Vera's store and the little tunnel that says Somerset. They didn't shoot any of it in Somerset.
Oh, did they even try to make it look like Somerset?
I have no clue. I just looked at locations on IMDb.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Good. So the movie had a $43 million budget. I'm guessing because San Francisco is so freaking expensive, I wouldn't be surprised. It made 69 million worldwide.
That's appropriate.
Did not do the best, but I don't know if it had to do with the fact that, you know, people weren't ready for a kind of sexy
female driven crude
a raunch-com.
Raunch-com.
But a third of the film's $43 million budget actually went to Cameron Diaz's salary. The film, even though the film only made $69 million, which is really great. Because I think at the time, if I remember correctly, it was between Julia, Sandy, and then Cameron started, you know, especially when she started doing the Shrek movies, I think she became one of the highest paid actresses at the time, which honestly is really sad in comparison to how much the guys were making at the time with the Tom Cruises, the Will Smiths of the world, not even close to being equal, but they made a big deal out of it, big stink when she started to get to that level. But if you're bringing in the revenue, I mean, this movie doesn't count, but all her other movies were bringing in the revenue. So you're going to have to pay for the name, baby.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the movie. We are the first introducing shots are gentlemen who have dated Christina. This is a very confusing movie actress naming dynamic.
Yes.
Because Cameron Diaz's character's name is Christina. Christina Applegate's character's name is Courtney, and then Selma Blair is Jane. So that's easy. So
it's really the Christina. I just wonder how Christina Applegate felt on the set.
I know. Like always turning around like, who, me?
My question is, when we start, we see that there's these exes being interviewed, but who's interviewing them and for what? Because at the end of the movie, we see Christina Applegate's character recording somebody saying something. And I'm like, but she's a lawyer, not a document. I'm confused. I
had the exact same question. I was like, what is even the interview about? The whole premise of the interview is very confusing.
I think it was supposed to be not an interview, but more like a monologue of an internal dialogue.
But then why bring that last piece at the end? That's what was like weird.
Yeah, that last piece, not great. It's not my favorite.
Like they could still do the interview at the end, but why did they have to show that it was her controlling a camera on a tripod?
Yeah,
I think to just show that she was in the room and like they were still, I don't know.
No, they all jumped on the couch together. They could have all just.
It was weird.
I don't know.
There's no answer to it, and this is just one of many questions I have about this movie.
We don't ask questions about The Sweetest Thing. We just go with it.
But we're going to ask questions during this episode because
I'm just saying I won't have answers for you.
I'll make them up as I usually do. But I just want everyone to have some, like people who haven't seen this movie, to have some clear understanding that there's some questions, and we understand that when you go watch it after this, you're going to be like, okay, Danielle and Jackie and Heather already said this was going to be a little weird, but that's fine.
Okay. So we see these dudes, maybe they're being interviewed. Maybe they're just
born with it,
about
Maybelline.
Christina. And it's them all just saying like, oh yeah, I know Christina Walters, blah, blah, blah. Essentially, she's ghosted all these gentlemen. One gets a nosebleed talking about her. One gets so angry on his stationary bike, it like breaks and throws him into some mirrors. One is talking in a supply room, and there is an old lady behind him struggling to put paper on a shelf. And that's all I focus on in that scene.
Just turn around and help the lady out.
Yeah. She's just like,
it's so weird. And I always think, honestly, I always say it's the director, because I don't understand how the man who directed Cruel Intentions also directed Just Friends and this movie. The math's not mathing. It's just not.
Maybe Cruel Intentions like broke something in his brain where he just had to do like wackadoo comedies.
I guess, because these are some off the wall movies that he had to like decompress from. So
yeah.
But the commentary about her character makes her seem like a really bad person, and she's never in the movie portrayed as a bad person. She's just, she kind of alludes to the fact that she doesn't take romance seriously or whatever, but the way the guys are talking about her, it's like she's an evil
manipulative or like emotionally abusive or something like that. And it's not really played like she says, like it's Mr. Right Now. She's not ever looking for anything long term. And so then like she ghosts them and they can't handle that rejection. It's fragile
feelings.
Yeah, fragile masculinity is what it is. Mm-hmm. So after this scene, we see the dancing up to the apartment to Sexual Revolution by Macy Gray and Erykah Badu. It's such a good song.
Is Erykah on that track? I didn't know that.
I looked it up.
I did not know. Love me some Badu.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Shayla.
She was 45 minutes late to her hour set at ACL.
It is what it is, y'all. Don't be judging. Erica, girl, it's me. I don't know why she brought your personal business up. No, I ain't got nothing to do with it. I'm fine with it. I'm fine. Thank you.
Getting back to the movie, they go into the apartment. Christina and Jane share an apartment, and Jane is distraught. She is drowning her sorrows in a pint of ice cream because her boyfriend of a year broke up with him, stating that he's been wanting to do this for a while now, and he feels like he's been dead inside for the last 6 months.
And resuscitate yourself, bitch, because nobody told you to stay in this relationship with this fine ass specimen. You should go fuck yourself, because that's what you're gonna be doing while I'm gone. There's no way. I would have stabbed him.
So she has this book, and it's like the 10 commandments of relationship. And rightfully so, Courtney is like, that is relationship propaganda. Like, do not read that. It is horrible advice. But then her friends don't give her much better advice because they're like, let's go clubbing.
I just want to draw attention to the nightstand in the living room and the pictures that are on it. It's a framed picture of a dog and another framed picture of a cat. And I just love that so much. And I'm confused. So it's Cameron Diaz's character and Selma Blair, right? Christina and Jane are roommates.
Correct.
Right. As we can see later from, damn it, you'll have to tell me her
Courtney.
name. From Courtney's car, we probably get a glimpse as maybe why they can't live together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, she got lawyer money.
True.
Yeah.
They're out at a nightclub, and obviously they're regulars because they skipped a line.
And audience, be ready for some crazy ass white lady dancing. This movie is filled with white lady dancing, arms flailing, flat asses roaming. It's a lot, but fun. But fun.
So
except Christina Applegate is an amazing dancer. Okay,
yes.
I'll leave it at that.
We saw her. The three of us
all saw her in Sweet Charity, and we were all excited because we had seen. I think we saw this movie came out before we went to New York. Yeah.
Yeah, because we went in 2005. This came out in 2002. Very exciting.
She looked phenomenal in this movie.
She did.
I couldn't take my eyes off her. Like, she's just so pretty.
Well, while we're on the subject of Christina, I'm sorry, Jackie, but I've never understood this, right? This is the trajectory of Christina Applegate. She was the hottest thing in the 90s. She was on Married with Children. She was, then she had, obviously, Don't Tell Mom, The Babysitter's Dead. Everybody loved her, thought she was smoking hot. And she was, going this way. And then all of a sudden, she became like the best friend. That bitch solid 10. How are you best friend in all these movies now? She became like a character actress, even though she's still popular. It just it never made sense to me how she didn't become like, she's funny. She can dance. She can sing.
Yeah.
What happened? I need answers, America.
Maybe she just had a bad team that wasn't working for her well.
Well, even like her TV shows in like the early aughts, I really enjoyed some of them. Oh, she was in View from a Top.
Samantha Who was so fucking funny.
Samantha Who was so good. And it got canceled after like one season.
Two
seasons. What the shit is that?
It was so good. She's so versatile. She could play like a really big bitch, and then she can play really sweet. It's just like, what happened? How? I hate to say it, but like, why didn't she have a Cameron Diaz career?
Right. Yeah.
So Christina and Courtney are out on the dance floor living their best lives. Jane is miserable on a waterbed couch.
What was that?
Which is the bed from a Goofy movie come to life.
Yes.
Remember when Heather had a waterbed?
Yep, I do.
Yes.
I had a waterbed for like all of my high school, I feel like.
It was very hard to sleep on that bed. I was like,
so So Jane is miserable on the waterbed. Christina and Courtney come back over and they're hi-ying all the people on the way. And then they're like, Jane, best night ever. And she's like, yeah, I'm having so much fun. I want to go home. And they're like, no, we'll find you a guy.
Jackie,
And so, yeah,
we're not gonna do this whole episode of you actually going line for line for this movie. You're doing that thing. You do this only when you love the movie. You are literally going line by line.
It's hard. All the lines are so good though. Like I'm waiting for the part where they go, cheers, because that's something we say all the time. I'm like, say it, Jackie. Say it. Get there.
I like the one-liners,
it's
but
coming up.
all right.
Well, like I was just explaining, like Jane is not happy. And
Yeah,
so
she's not
they're
having
like trying to convince her that she's having a great time when obviously she is not. And so they're like, we'll find you a guy, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, Leather Coat Guy sends drinks over just to Christina and Courtney. And they say, ooh, thanks, Leather Coat Guy. And then they say, cheers.
Cheers. I love it.
I love the exchange that these two have when Courtney goes over to talk to him,
Mhm.
but also the fact that that's her ex-husband. Oh, at the time it was her husband.
Yeah.
I don't think they had, I think they had a pretty bad divorce in real life, actually.
I think so
I think
too.
you.
Yeah. So Courtney is over talking to Leather Coat Guy. I won't quote it.
No, this part, I
Um,
mean, that part you can quote. I just mean, like, let's not quote the mundane stuff. I don't know. Sorry. But that's a great quote.
Where he's like, what's up with you? Nothing. What's up with you? And they do it like they cut to Christina and Jane, and a guy walks by. And so Christina grabs his ass, and then he's like, what the fuck? And she's like, oh, here, this is my friend Jane, go dance. And he's like, I'm trying to find my friends. I'm really sorry. Like he's very polite about it, but like he got shit to do. He was just walking.
She like digged in his ass, it felt like. Did you guys feel that too? Like,
Yeah.
She was up in
Yeah.
there.
She wasn't about to be missed. She was going to be noticed.
So then they have like this argument where he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I can't, like, I'm just supposed to go with your friend Jane because you told me to. Like, what the shit is that? So they have a little exchange. Cut to Courtney and Leather Coat Guy still nothing. What's up with you? And so finally, Christina and Courtney make their way to the bathroom. And Christina is regaling the tale of like this guy who was so rude to her. And she calls him Peter because that's his name. And so then Courtney's like, oh, you've named the puppy. During this entire exchange in the bathroom, one girl is like ogling Courtney's tits. And she's like, I bought them. You could touch him. So the girl's like squeezing on her, like while she's still carrying on a conversation. And then she's like, hey, so-and-so, come feel these. And like the girl does ask for permission because good on you, boundaries. But like all of a sudden there's like 3 different girls feeling up Christina Applegate while she's continuing to have a conversation with Cameron Diaz's character. It's so brilliant. And then like 2 guys walk by and the door is like partially open. He's like, that's why chicks go to the bathroom together. Ridiculous.
I remember when I originally saw this and was just like, this doesn't happen. But I can say that when people get boob jobs, they're very happy about their boob jobs, and they have no problems with showing off their titas now that they have these magnificent sets. So maybe not so out of the realm of reality.
I remember that, like, I never find myself anywhere interesting to have anything like that happen. But I, like, in college, remember, maybe I wore more low cut shirts back then, but things like it's not outside the realm of possibilities where girlfriends would just be like, "Wow, your boobs look great today. Let me feel those guys," or something. You know, like it's girls are weird that way, where it's not sexual. It's not like
we're being supportive and appreciative,
complimentary and impressed.
I've always had my gay guy friends always like touch them, but I don't know.
Side note, the early aughts fashion in this movie is on point. Cameron Diaz is most of the time in a one-shouldered shirt. In this scene in particular, Courtney is wearing a vest as a shirt.
Because she don't wear shirts.
Yes. The fashion
Fuck
is pretty
shirts.
crazy. And Courtney, Cameron Diaz's character, I
Christina.
don't know how much Christina, yes, thank
Yeah.
you. Christina, I don't know how much lower her pants could go. They're the
I-
lowest, low-rise, low. And where's her butt crack? Because I don't
Where's
know.
her butt crack and where is her vagina slit?
Where's her butt?
Yeah.
Y'all are
anatomy
asking
of
the
her lower
wrong
half.
question. Where's her butt? Where's the beef?
Yeah.
And she's definitely not wearing underwears
Mm-mm.
No.
because she doesn't have the whale tail, which was also popular during the time.
Well, I
Yeah.
was actually appreciating that I didn't see thong to thong 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 in this
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
But Jane is
Even the
way more
makeup.
conservative
Yes.
in her dressing.
Yeah.
I made a note to myself about the makeup either that, everything here is like 5 or 6 layers of makeup and contour and, in this day and age. And 90s makeup was just so simple, it could get over the top in its own right. But I'm like, look at them. They're just so simply pretty and natural
Yeah.
makeup. I love it.
I think also we didn't know what the hell we were doing in the 90s. I mean, I'm not really good with makeup myself, and I don't know if I could dedicate myself to putting but when I see people do the contour, I'm like, how is this gonna turn out? I could just
I don't
see
understand it.
myself really making a fool of myself if I did it. But the 90s was a bad place.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
it could go bad real quick. But
yeah.
they did a good job in this movie.
Honestly, I think the only person that came out of like the 90s, early 2000s that looked really good with their makeup at that time was Britney Spears. She, her makeup looked pretty darn good at that time.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I want to rewind just a little bit. While Christina and Peter are arguing, super hot guy that I know from an choke on myself. I'm fine. An Anacondas movie, super hot guy beckons Jane over and she's just like, oh. And so she goes over, like she completely leaves Christina and Peter arguing. They don't even notice that she's gone. So now Jane is with super hot guy. I don't even know if we ever find out his name.
Is it the same guy from the rest of the movie?
Yeah.
Did you guys notice Frank Grillo was one of the guys in the first scenes when they were asking you about dating Christina?
I don't know who that is.
So for those of you who are Marvel MCU fans, he plays Crossbones in the MCU. I guess it's just me.
Okay.
But I
That's
was just
fine.
focused on Bucky Barnes and Chris Evans. I had no other mental capacity for any other people in that movie.
Never mind. Anywho,
Anyway,
Crossbones was in the movie for
Okay.
anyone who cares.
Thank you for that. So now Christina and Courtney are coming out of the bathroom, and not to Christina's fault, but she opens the door and hits Peter. He spills his drink. So she's very apologetic. And I think she's kind of rethinking her strategy because Courtney called her out for being budgiggity. And so she's buying Peter a drink, but she replaced his like cocktail with a beer, which a beer is probably way less expensive than a cocktail.
Yeah.
Did he?
And I just have to, I would just say, I have to give him such credit when she did knock into him with the door. If you rewind that scene and watch him fumble with that glass, it's a thing of beauty. It is a thing of beauty. He does such a good job. Fake being surprised by that door and catching his glass. It's great. Keith even
Bravo,
commented, he's
Thomas
like, rewind
Jane.
this is awesome.
Funny trivia, Thomas Jane does play the Punisher in the MCU. And
He does.
when he doesn't return for one of the movies, Frank Grillo plays the Punisher as well.
That comes full circle.
0 degrees.
And I always felt like when she went to the bathroom scene and said Peter, When did he tell her his name was Peter?
I think when he's like, they're talking and she's like, Mr. Safety Poo or whatever, and pulls down his zipper of his sweater and he goes, nice manners. It's Peter, by the way.
Oh, okay. I thought so all this time I've always thought that even after rewatching it, that she just
had
decided,
ESPN.
yes, that she decided that his name was Peter and then found out it was accurate. And then, oh, that's why they're meant to be. Okay.
It's not that elevated of a script.
I see.
So they're at the bar. She buys Peter a drink. And then he's like, should I be offended that my new girlfriend is making out with that guy over there? And Jane and Hot Guy are literally just like tongues fully out, like flicking like snakes. Like,
oh,
they're into it, but I don't think anyone else is.
Yeah, that made me cringe. I can't. I don't like seeing people's tongues touch in movies and stuff. It creeps me out. So
and
wet.
Then at the same time, we are introduced to the shining star of the movie, Jason Bateman, who plays Peter's brother. I'm sure they say his name. It's just Jason Bateman. He's kind of like talking about like the wedding, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, hey, I've got a bunch of girls. We're going back to the Freddie Mercury suite at the Four Seasons. And then the girl pukes on him. And he's just like continuing to have this conversation with like vomit on his shirt. And he's like, you should invite this hot girl who is Christina. And so Peter reluctantly is like, hey, I have to go. I'm really sorry. And she's like, yeah, no problem. And it's kind of sad because she struck out with a guy. And security comes and gets Jason Bateman, and two glorious quotes here. One is like, don't touch it. It's puke. It's puke. And then later on, he's like, you're pinching my arm skin. And I just, so brilliant from the master, Jason Bateman.
It's so funny because I've seen this movie so many times, and I think I'm always so pleasantly surprised to be reminded that he's in it. Like he's not the leading character that he should be, that he deserves to be. So yeah, he always surprises me.
I also like, I think this movie was like one of the pinpoints of him kind of coming back into our worldview, because it's kind of like he disappeared a little bit, you know, like in the 80s, huge, and then kind of faded into the distance. And so I think this movie, and then obviously Arrested Development just kind of threw him back in, but he was not Jason Bateman at the time in that same way that we know him now. So it's kind of interesting to see him in those roles, and you're like, oh, that's right, he was just making his comeback, just starting to make his way.
And side note, Miss Terry loves Jason Bateman.
He's a favorite.
So Christina is now home. She's just like laying on the couch, probably thinking over the evening. Courtney calls in, is just like an asshole on the answering machine, is like, I bet you're sitting home and you're screening your calls and you didn't go with that hot guy because you're a loser. And she makes up a rap about being a loser. And then Christina falls asleep. She has this wonderful dream that men only like to go down on women and they don't like blowjobs. And then immediately after orgasming, he brings in a giant ice cream sundae that he's removed all the calories from. And I was like, this is how you know it was written by a woman. It's like all the right things. So she wakes up and she's thinking like she made a wrong decision not going to the Four Seasons. So she calls, but they've already checked out. So she's like, meh, okay. Now we are heading down to Chinatown for lunch. So Jane, Courtney, and Christina are meeting for lunch, and Jane's like, oh, I just have to drop something off at the dry cleaners really quickly. And they notice in the bag is the dress that she was wearing the night before that she had borrowed from Courtney. And Courtney's like, did you get something on my dress? What is it? And it is like a giant cum stain on her dress.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Go
They
ahead.
grab it and proceed to like toss it back and forth in there, like monkey in the middle Jane with the dress. And all I'm thinking is, who the fuck plays with a outfit with dry cum on it? You don't touch that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's not something to toy with.
Well,
What's going on?
I was distracted by, I don't know what was going on with those two guys with the mask on in the
It was a parade
background.
of some sort.
Yeah,
It's
but
Chinese New Year. They're common characters in the dragon shows for Chinese New Year.
Right. That's not what I'm confused about. Like I
Oh,
understood.
well, they were just making fun of Jane, like, oh no.
Yeah, but the noises they
winky,
made were
winky.
so weird. And then
But she smacks him in the head, so it's fine.
yeah, but also like I felt like it's a little cringe. I didn't like that part, but it was also weird.
Yeah. So Jane goes into the dry cleaner. Apparently, it's her family dry cleaner for like centuries. And so she goes in and she's like trying to fill out the ticket really quick and just leave it on the counter and get out. But the dry cleaner comes out and he's like, oh, Janie. And then a field trip comes in and it's like her third grade teacher is there on a field trip. So they're saying her priest comes in and like, so she's talking to all of them. Meanwhile, the dry cleaner is trying to figure out what is on the dress and he like flicks her in the head. It's like, think, Jane, think.
And he's like scratching, sniffing the stain
Yeah.
and licking it.
And then he like
it's so gross.
licks it. Ugh, no.
It's just so gross.
And like, surely you've seen dried cum on something before, sir. You know what
And I
this
know
is.
it's the movie and it's the shock value and the raunch value and stuff. But like, what? No dry cleaner looks that close. They're like, okay, see ya, bye.
Yeah, like I'll try and get it out. So Jane goes to meet the girls at the Chinese food restaurant. This is where I paused the movie and I flipped over to YouTube because they cut out an entire scene. And that scene is a little ditty we call the penis song. And it was written by the three girls. And it is the most ridiculous, wonderful earworm you will ever witness. And you're like, what the fuck did I just watch? And I have to watch it again.
Yeah.
I thought it was dumb. I made Serena just watch it and she was like, what? I was like, I don't know. I don't know why. When I was younger, I thought it was hilarious, and now I'm just like, what is this? But it is what it is.
You're too big to fit in here. Too big to fit in here. Too big to fit in here. And then there's like a conga line. The little grandma lady from Wedding Singer shows up and does some like cartwheels and some dancey moves. And then at one point there's a lyric that says, and it's oozy and it's green.
Yeah, that was gross. And they all stop and look at her and she's like what? But I do love the cameo from is that the grandma from Wedding Singer?
The best part was we were watching it. Madison and I were watching it. My friend Madison, I'm staying at her house. And the old lady comes on the screen and she squeals, Betty White. And I'm like, that's not Betty White.
Oh, poor Madison.
She was a little confused. It was fine. I mean, like from a distance, not with the close-up, easily confused.
And I think we only saw the scene because we watched it at home on DVD because it didn't come out in the theaters.
No, this was only on the unrated version, which I refer to as the red cover, because when we were getting ready to watch this, I'm like, I can't find it streaming anywhere with the unrated version with the penis song in it. And Madison goes, well, let me see which version I have on VHS, pulls out her VHS copy, and I'm immediately like, no, that's the red cover. That's the rated version, because I'm sad. And I know so yeah, we paused it, we watched the penis song, and then we went right back into the movie. I was proud of my pausing skills, because like where it cuts off on YouTube is like exactly where it was going back into the movie when
So apparently this scene was in the original script, and because I guess the original script was so raunchy that they had to cut back a lot of it. And I think the girls were like, yeah, that's one of the reasons we even signed on to do it, was just that scene alone. So I thought that was kind of cool that they were down for it from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, obviously Cameron Diaz being in there, something about Mary, like she's very good and probably enjoys that type of more crude humor.
Yeah.
And you could tell she's a guy's girl, you could tell.
Yeah.
So I think she like lends herself to kind of the raunchier humor.
Yeah. So the penis scene is done. We are now golfing with the boys, Peter and his brother, and my favorite character, Grandpa.
Okay, another question. So we
Yes.
learn later. So Grandpa is sitting at the wedding with the bride's dad and mom, right? So is it that they just all grew up with him all these years, or just like them knowing each other, and they just called him Grandpa because of that? Because I thought that was the guy's grandpa, but then I'm like, is he the bride's grandpa? And that I'd never realized that until rewatching it, that I think
that's a good observation, because even in the wedding scene, after everything happens at the altar, he turns around to her dad and says, "Dad," or something like that, which I thought was weird. So I'm like, wait, but what just happened? I don't get it.
Yeah.
So. And I would have to think it is the guy's grandpa, because like they talk about grandma and stuff, like it's not just like surface level, oh, I just call this old guy grandpa.
But the mom of the bride at the wedding turns to him and says, "You must miss grandma." So again, it just, whose grandpa is he? Or is this small town just so incestuous?
They all just share a grandpa.
Yeah, it's super weird. Well, it's not
I don't
weird.
know.
It just, I have questions, like I said.
Yeah.
That I would.
Good question.
Who knows? So they're at a driving range. There is this poor gentleman driving the little caged in cart to pick up the balls, and Peter and his brother's goal is to just hit that vehicle that the guy is driving, and it is slowly driving him insane. And meanwhile, Grandpa's sitting behind them in a holy who farted shirt, and they're talking about meeting Christina the night before and how Peter should have taken her home, blah blah blah. And Grandpa eloquently points out that he should have poked her in the whiskers when he had the chance.
I don't even understand that quote, but it's so good.
It's so good. And so they're like, "Oh, you must miss grandma." And then he tells this story about the love of his life, Pearl, and fuck grandma. So grandpa obviously harbors some animosity towards grandma. There is also a lightsaber with golf clubs fight in this scene, which is amazing. So we get a lot of exposition, and they're still talking about a wedding. And it was mentioned the night before, obviously, that someone was getting married. And so,
but they say doesn't Peter's brother say he's
my wedding?
Yeah. So yeah,
that's all weird, because there's two things in the scene, and just in general, like it's weird that there's such, I don't know, shadiness about them making it seem like it's the brother's wedding and not his, for no good reason, and why is he pushing Peter to hook up with Courtney when he's the one getting married? Like,
Christina.
Yes, sorry, whatever. It's very hard. I can't remember.
Danielle's just taking the
But
night
thank you.
off.
Thank you for correcting and keeping everyone straight
You're
on what
good.
I'm saying. Yeah, it's very weird. Like, that's such bad form. Because later we come to find out, like, he doesn't have a bad relationship with his fiance. They're just,
Mhm.
you know,
Have grown
friends.
apart. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's strange. And then also, we talked a lot about the girls' fashion and how much we loved it. These outfits were horrendous that they were golfing in. What even is happening?
Well, so the brother went full on caricature of a golfer, and then it looks like Peter rolled out of bed, threw on his bathrobes, and forgot his shoes
These
to go
outfits were
golfing.
terrible.
It was ridiculous. I must have missed. Oh, I guess at lunch, Christina mentions to Courtney prior to Jane showing up that, like, oh, well, I guess if I really wanted to see Peter again, we could just crash his brother's wedding. Like, she does this like throwaway line thing, which leads into the next scene where it's morning. So I guess the next day. And Courtney shows up and she wakes Christina up and she's like, hey, I need to borrow one of your purses. They walk out, wrong smack dab into a very naked hot guy, Jane's little boy toy. They say, oh my cock, several times. Jane comes out after a tryst and is looking for Advil and holding her crotch.
I feel like it was a missed opportunity for when you see from behind and they're looking at him, they're like, so wow, the tip should have just came into focus a little bit, just to give us some idea of how large and in charge he was.
Yes,
if that's what we were so amazed by,
Yeah. So Christina's like, oh, you're all dressed up, Courtney. Where are you going? Do you have a date? Do you have to go to court? Whatever. And Courtney's like, no, we're going to Somerset. We're going to Peter's brother's wedding. And Christina's like slow to catch on. And then Courtney's like, you mentioned it. And even though you say it was a joke, I know you weren't joking. So get your ass dressed. We're leaving. So now we are on this lovely road trip north in California. And shortly into the drive, something starts smelling funky in the car. And so they have this conversation because Courtney kind of jokingly, as Christina is climbing into the back to try and find the funky smell, is like, are you sure it's not your punani? And so they have this conversation about the punani odor department. And then she discovers it's actually like at fancy restaurants when you have like a take home, they like fold it into a beautiful aluminum swan for you. And so it is full of maggots because it's been back there for God knows how long.
How does she not smell that? That's gross.
Yeah. So she throws it out the window, but it sails out and comes back and hits the windshield and gets like rotten food and maggots all over the windshield. So they have to stop at a gas station. They both have to pee. And so they try to go in the women's room. Can I quote this part, Danielle? They try and get into the women's room and the lady's like, it's gonna be a while. I had lamb curry last night and I'm shitting out a Buick.
Okay, so why does it why I never understand, but do you guys notice in a lot of movies people will say that they had like Indian food or curry and then their stomach hurts, and I'm just like, I've eaten curry a lot and my stomach, I've never had any stomach problems before. What is that?
I agree with you. Yeah, Mexican doesn't do it to me, but I think a better quote would be some kind of Mexican food. I think that throws people's systems for a loop more than curry does.
Probably because of the beans, but
yeah, I think, Danielle, it's coming from a very shit white people do perspective where they can't handle any spice.
Gotcha.
So anything, even like the mildest curry, is just going to run right through you.
Which is unfortunate because like that, so much is from the white gaze. And so it makes it seem like all this ethnic food is harmful.
Fuck your shit up.
But it's really because bland as fuck.
Yeah,
Food.
we don't
is being-
spice our food.
Yeah, and this is my PSA. Spice is not salt. Salt is not spice. Spice is not salt. Just letting you know, when people say that something is, I don't know, it's a little spicy, it's salty. No, that's not spicy, that's salty. Spices are all the other plethora of different spices and herbs there are. So please, PSA for white people, spicy does not equal salty. Thank you.
And season your goddamn food.
Yes, please, for God's fucking sake. And cook it all the way. Steak, fine, but chicken, it's not supposed to be red. It's
Oh,
not. It's not. And also, if you have someone come to your house and you're cooking chicken, don't watch them cut into it and say, "Is it done?" Bitch, what? True story.
I'm sorry about your trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. Traumatizing as fuck. Like, yeah.
So Courtney and Christina are forced to use the men's room. Courtney takes one for the team. She uses a urinal. Christina goes into the stall. A little story about Heather and I sharing a bathroom. So we both really needed to pee one time. And we were at an escape room and they only had one bathroom, but it had a toilet and a urinal in it. And I was like, I'll take one for the team. I'll be the Courtney in this situation and I'll use the urinal. I have a hidden talent, and that's using urinals to pee without getting anything on me. I was so fucking proud of myself. It was like almost better than the escape room was me using a urinal for the first time.
It's always wonderful when you learn a new skill.
Hidden talent.
New skill unlocked.
Yes.
Christina Applegate.
Level up.
She said, "I don't know why I decided that my character could actually anatomically and physically urinate in a urinal. So that was something that couldn't happen. You'd be getting it all down your leg. So apparently lift your leg and pee in a urinal." That's her advice. And that obviously was shot at the end of the day because the water was really high pressured. And had the water been aimed a little bit lower, we all would have had a better day.
Yeah, you were pretty magnificent at your urinal.
Thank you. And so I'm sorry, Christina Applegate, I proved you wrong because I flawlessly used a urinal. Not a drop on me. And then the urinal won't flush. So Courtney's trying to get the urinal to flush. Meanwhile, Christina is having this conversation with herself in the wall, literally, because there is a mural on the wall and it is a yellow brick road. And then it goes to a dog who has a hole for a mouth. And so she's like, follow the yellow brick road. And then she's like, Buffy, you look like my old doggy Buffy. And then she looks in the hole and gets poked in the eye with a penis. And so she's flipping out about that. At the same time, as Danielle is saying, the urinal breaks, water sprays everywhere. They're essentially like wash out of the bathroom. Christina is beside herself.
There's so many like in real life gross components. Like I don't know if I would have survived that situation because I would need to exit my skin suit. That would be so gross.
First and foremost, I don't know what that thing is where little holes make you freak out, but just seeing that hole there in general, even if it was a puppy, that would have freaked me out. The fact that when she got so close to the hole, like, who does that? I kept yelling at the TV.
No one does that.
Stop doing that.
Yeah.
I wasn't even caring about the penis. I was just thinking about snakes and bugs and dirt. I was so not okay with that whole scene. And why are you touching the fucking wall? It's dirty. This bathroom is nasty. Do your business and get out, girl. What you doing?
Right. Let's not make it a party in here.
And then they fly, like the water knocks them to the dirty ass floor that probably hasn't been mopped.
I'm not gonna lie, I fast forwarded. I couldn't do it. It made me itch. It was, Cameron Diaz said it was absurd. that it was one of those things in the movie where it was just absurdity was just, okay, we're doing this. It was at the end of the day, they were so hosed down. They said they were trying to put as much water pressure on them. The two of them were just trying to survive because they could barely stand. They kept falling. It was a lot of physical comedy for them, but
Yeah.
I had to keep remembering it's not real toilet water, Danielle.
Yeah. Keith.
I do love the scene after this where they're taking their clothes off and they talk about laundry day, because we've all been there. We've all been there, full on Speedo bathing suit under some clothes.
So Christina is like, hey, it's laundry day. I only got the skanky panties left. And it's like these giant floral granny panties that like have like extra ass room in the bottom of them. And
well,
then
because as we mentioned before, she doesn't have ass to fill them out.
Exactly. Exactly.
Don't come for me. I'm sorry, but it's just facts.
And then she's literally wearing a bathing suit.
The thing that bothered me the most about this scene, to this day, like even when I first saw it, was that I felt like Christina's bottoms should have been Courtney's bottoms, because she had sparkly bottoms and she had the pink top with the sparklies on it. And I was like, that matches. And then I felt like Christina could have wore the American flag with the white boxers and that would have matched. It always bothered me that they were wearing them.
But they're not supposed to match. That's the point.
I know, but I'm just telling you how I felt. I'm not saying it makes any logical sense.
So while they're derobing and talking about the skanky panties, they turn on the radio and it's Escape. I don't know if it's Jimmy Buffett or the other version. Does not matter. Irrelevant. Or the Pina Colada song.
Escape.
That's the actual name of this. So they're like, oh my gosh, spring break 1994. Let's call Jane. And so they call Jane. Jane is at work. She works at like a high-end men's fashion store. And Mr. Mooney, the owner, is out with his boy toy. And so she's in charge. And she has like this assistant girl and she makes her go do all the things. And she's just like standing there playing with a stamp pad or whatever.
How many times did she stamp that one spot just aimlessly? She wasn't stamping for purpose.
No. She was just playing. So while she's kind of just playing with the stamp pad, living her best life, in comes a giant purple elephant. Heather, did you recognize this elephant? Because I sure did. Danielle, did you recognize this elephant?
It's not Dumbo. I don't know him.
So the elephant costume is from a show from the Disney Channel called The Wuzzles. And the costume is Ellaroo, the elephant / kangaroo. And to the point where I paused it, looked it up on Wikipedia. I was like, look at me identifying things because my brain holds useless knowledge. So it's Hot Guy. He's tiptoeing in to surprise Jane. He's on break from the children's hospital where he entertains the children. Jane's horny, so they go to the dressing room. And so now they're having sex, but he's still got his costume. I don't know the logistics of this.
I don't think it's meant to make sense.
No, the scene was not in the original script. It was the brainchild of the director, Roger. He said that he felt like the scene needed something because, you know, those girls are out there having a great time. What's a great time for you for Jane's character? And he was like, animal sex.
Furry sex.
Well, that's what Blair said, animal sex. So it was really absurd. And she said that she remembered being really really comfortable. Actually, she said it was so cozy.
I'm sure it was. It looked very nice. And I guess the dressing rooms are upstairs. So the assistant comes running in. Jane falls out of the dressing room. The elephant is behind her, but the assistant can't see him. And he is hiding by just covering his eyes. It's a very lovely touch. And Heather, I'll let you quote what the assistant says.
She says, he's looking for you and he is P-I-S-E-D. Pice?
Which, when I don't know if it was a random text I got from you, Heath, where you were like, has anyone claimed the sweetest thing? And I was like, no, it's yours. And you said, good, or else I would have been PISED. And I was like, that was perfect.
You should have made that in the guess the quote for her.
That was my like second choice for a sweetest thing quote. So apparently Mr. Mooney came back early. He's downstairs waiting for Jane. He's very sassy. He is piced. And she's like, oh, I was just doing inventory. Sorry. Her little like shoulder sweater is like completely turned around in the front like a bib. She's like trying to freshen herself up.
I don't know why he didn't just stay upstairs, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because while they're having this conversation, Elephant Man is tiptoeing down the stairs and then falls over the rail. And they're like, what's that sound? But then at that same time, the phone starts ringing. And so Mr. Mooney answers it. And I love this quote so much.
Yeah.
He answers the phone and Christina goes, hello, is Jane there?
Jane there.
Sounded
then
like
he's like-
movie phone guy.
Yep.
And then Mr. Mooney's like, yes, she is. And then Christina goes, thanks and have a lovely day.
Lovely day.
It's so good.
I just thought it was beyond boundaries. I know it's a store, but like, how dare you, sir, put my personal phone call on speakerphone?
Right? Yeah. Mm-mm.
So as soon as Jane answers the phone, he puts it on speakerphone and you could just hear them laughing and just giving her a hard time. But we don't find out if she got fired or not.
I don't think she did. I think he's just moody, which would explain.
Just like something to be grumpy about.
Yeah. And so they start singing the Pina Colada song to her, which I love. So now we are back in the car, continuing on our way to Somerset, and they're just in their bras in quotes and panties in quotes, and Christina's painting her toenails in the car, which that's a risky game. And then
I think I've done that before. Distinctly, I remember painting my toenails on the way to a wedding one time, because I'm just, I'm not a good executor. I'm a good planner. I'm not a good executor.
It's a risky little game though, because if shit goes sideways, like there's no like cleaning it up in a timely fashion. And then Courtney is putting on her lip gloss, but she drops the tube of lip gloss and she's driving, so she's like, oh, Christina, can you grab it? So Christina is like literally in between her legs, crawling around on the floorboard trying to find it, and this motorcyclist,
like butt up in the air, unbuckled, totally in there.
Yeah. And so this like Hell's Angels drives by and he's like, ooh, what are they doing? Because it totally looks like Christina's going down on Courtney. Courtney sees this dude and is like, oh yeah, you like that? And is totally playing along. The guy's totally getting off on it. But then his lane merges and he doesn't notice and he hits these cones and like does this little tumbly thing, but then like lands on his feet and it's just like,
but she doesn't see it. So I love how quickly she turns from being, having fun to like, oh shit.
I just killed a man with a non-practical joke.
But this part, the thing that where I was like, why does Christina not? I would have been like, Jackie, why the fuck are you moaning while I'm trying to get this lip gloss? And why are you clamping your legs on my head? I would have been like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
It was crazy. But Christina Applegate said that the scene was fine for them because they had become pretty familiar enough with each other and because she showered that day.
Fair enough. I love that she planned ahead.
Yeah.
So now we are entering Somerset and they find this little boutique that they're going to go in to buy new clothes. And so they literally get out. Christina has like two small jean jacket buttoned up, and they're using maps as like skirts to get into Vera's store.
Which I didn't understand, because why not give both the maps to Christina? And because Courtney was wearing boxers, that could have looked like shorts. It was weird.
Yeah.
So they go into Vera's. Vera is this older lady. She thinks she is the height of fashion in her sleepy little town. She dressed half the wedding, but really it's just over the top, like Housewives of Dallas in the 1980s fashion is her aesthetic. And so they're kind of looking through everything, and they're about to leave, and they're like, oh, we're just looking for something more specific. And she's like, oh, you don't like my store? And so then they feel bad. So they go in and like try a bunch of stuff on. And there's always a time for a movie montage. And so we get this montage of them dressing up as famous characters from movies. So there's hysterically laughing Julia Roberts from Pretty Woman. There's Lloyd and Harry from Dumb and Dumber in the tuxedos. There's Madonna from Desperately Seeking Susan. So it's all of this montage of all of these characters. And just prior to this, when they're in the dressing rooms, they're having this very ominous conversation, which totally resonates, especially now, not being a teenager and watching it and not knowing what the fuck they're talking about. But Christina says, you know, when I was 22, my breastises were like up here, nice and perky, and gravity has taken them to here. And so, and then Courtney walks in, she's like, but where's my arm?
Yeah.
What is this? What is this? And it's her bat wing. And I'm like, oh God, this is like actual conversations we have now.
It is. And I remember looking at it then and understanding what they were talking about, but I was like, y'all bitches look fine.
Right.
Yes.
What are y'all complaining
It
about?
is honest conversation real women have, but
not
two
with
skinny ass
real
bitches
women
who have perfect bodies.
Exactly.
Doing it.
I was like, Cameron, what are you talking about? Were they up at your fucking chin? Please, girl, bye.
Yeah.
They're still very perky.
So now they have their very tight, very colorful outfits on, complete with like the hats with like the little tool on top. They're checking out at Vera's, and Vera asks Courtney to sign the mailing list. So she signs it, and Vera's like, oh, that's sweet. So that'll come back into play later. And so they're like leaving to go to the church. They finally find the church. They go in. Courtney goes in to sit down, but Christina has to use the bathroom. She has to pee because she's in the tightest skirt ever. And so she goes into the bridal suite. Unbeknownst to her, it's the bridal suite. And the bride is like in the bathroom hyperventilating. So
Parker
now
Posey,
she's
I'm so excited.
Parker Posey. I was
so
like,
good.
I forgot Parker Posey was in this movie for like 5 minutes. So Christina is now having to hype up the bride because she has like cold feet, but she also really needs to pee. So she's like trying to pump her up and like, hey, just 1 second before I wet myself. And so finally the bride has enough like motivation. She leaves to go out to the wedding venue, and Christina gets locked in the little bridal suite. Meanwhile, Courtney has found them seats in the church. There is this little kid that's staring at her. And this is another thing that Heather and I quote a whole bunch. At first, she just keeps telling him to like turn around. And he's like, mm-mm. And then she goes, Jesus, look, it's Jesus. And is like pointing at this giant ass crucifix on the wall. I love the Jesus, look, it's Jesus. Finally, she's like, where the fuck is Christina? Goes out to find her. Christina's climbing out of a window to get out. And then when they go to try and get back in the church, all the doors are locked. So they have to enter through like the front side, like where the bride and groom are standing. And so they come in and they're trying to get back to their seats. But then this is where Christina realizes Peter's the one getting married, not the brother. And so she's like, what, Peter? And like knocks over this giant ass flower arrangement. And he looks up and he sees her as they're like running out of the church. And then like Courtney does this weird exposition where she's like, is this the Glickman bar mitzvah? Moisha, are you in here? And then like they just take off.
Why do they always make women in these roles so clumsy? I don't get it.
Know.
Why is this like, is clumsy this quality that is supposed to make you cute and quirky? Because I feel like I would just be mortified all the time.
But
I'd
she
have so much
wasn't-
anxiety.
She wasn't clumsy up until now. We have not established that Christina is a clumsy person.
Yeah,
it's just a
it's just
clumsy
a
moment.
random
Yeah.
thing. Okay.
I also love when they finally find an open door towards the front of the church. They both turn to each other and they're like, suck it. And I'm like, it's one of those things that like you have things with your friends that you just always do or say.
Yeah,
And
I'm
it's
glad
just-
to hear that they like had a kinship or friendship in real life, because if not, they were just great actresses, because there was definitely like a spark between the two of them where I'm like, I
Yeah.
believe you guys are best friends. I get it.
Absolutely.
Christina and Selma's kids play together, so they see
Mm.
each other at least when they had the 10-year reunion. But I think they all are pretty close, because when Selma Blair made a joke saying that Cameron Diaz had retired, and this was a few years ago, like before her actually saying that she's not really acting that much, and she was like, it was a joke because they're friends. And so then she's like, I will no longer be my friend's publicist, or when it kind of blew out of control. So they are real friends in real life. But the movie is actually based mainly on the writer Nancy and her relationship with her friend Kate Walsh, which makes me super excited, because
Addison Shepherd,
any kind of connection to Shondaland makes my heart sing. So I think that's super cool. And I think Kate Walsh, like out of all the actors that I see, she's one of the people on my list that I think we'd be really good friends.
Yeah.
I love that journey for you.
Thank you.
I hope you attain it one day.
You won't be replaced. Don't worry.
I wasn't worried. I can take Kate Walsh.
She'd return me back. She'd be like, Jackie, I can't handle this.
So Christina and Courtney exit the church. We stay in the church as the audience because Judy is now covered H to T in hives, is trying to get Peter's attention. The priest is having none of it. And the priest plays this so fucking well, because at first she's like, Peter. And the priest is like trying to send like these almost nonverbal signals, like, shut the fuck up, I'm doing my piece. And then she's like, Peter, have reservations. And the priest is like, shh.
Doesn't the priest look like almost like a different version of Grandpa?
Yes, like they're both shapes. They're just oddly shaped. Like I don't know how else to describe it.
If I got my background working, that was the background I was doing, was the priest going. It just makes me laugh so much. Not Grandpa, the priest, sorry.
Yeah, the priest.
And why did the dad find it necessary after the girls like tripped over and left, and they talked about the what did they say it was
Bar mitzvah?
Bar mitzvah?
Oh, there's no Jews in Somerset.
Right. What?
Yeah.
Okay,
But, like,
that's an odd flex.
But it wasn't even that he said it, but it was that he got up in the middle of the wedding and still went, and he like went up there. He's like, we don't have any Jews up there. I'm like, what? Why are you doing that?
Well, the dad obviously has emotional trauma because
We come to find.
and some anger management that's not explored.
I would like the bills, because you live in Somerset, right? It's an incestuous town. The church, how much could they really be charging for this
Mhm.
wedding? That wedding hall, which was like, it looked like the side of the churches where we have the dinners.
Yeah.
How much could that be? $30,000 for that wedding? Where? You show me.
Those giant ass, taller than Cameron Diaz floral arrangements.
I'm
Mhm.
sure
Those will be a
Somerset
pretty
had a
penny.
deal.
They looked, but those floral arrangements even looked like they were owned by the church and you just like rent them for the
Yes.
day.
Yes.
Yeah, it looked like it was a full church package, no more than 10 grand.
And I feel like if you're giving it to the church, it has to be a write-off in some way.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's what I tithed for the year, was just Judy's wedding. So they finally, Peter and Judy have this whisper conversation, much to the priest's chagrin. And they both come to the conclusion that they're just friends, that they're not into this relationship anymore. And so Judy turns around and she's like, but we're still going to have the party. Meanwhile, her dad's fucking flattened Peter, has tackled him behind her. And then even at the reception, if I were
tackled
Peter, I
again.
wouldn't have even gone to.
Right. Why are
The
y'all
reception.
dancing? What is happening? This is
Yeah.
the weirdest breakup I've ever seen.
And this was a mutual thing. It's not like he found out he cheated on her and it's this
Right.
ugly thing. Like they both said, call it off. Why isn't he tackling his daughter? That's her fault.
And she started it.
Yeah.
Peter
Yeah.
would have just gone
And she
with it.
actually was cheating on him. She later we find out she's met
Right.
someone else.
She met someone online.
I never
Yeah.
understood why, like, okay, Peter doesn't really want to marry her, but he wasn't upset at all. And you can't tell me that's because you met one person one night
Mhm.
ago.
Right.
You don't even know anything.
It was
about
over
her.
way before then.
Yeah.
Which maybe that was the catalyst for the brother to encourage him to like go and find someone,
Right.
so that maybe would like give him the courage to end it with
Oh,
Judy.
So Jason Bateman's terrible character is actually
A hero.
the hero. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. He's
So-
the one with the moral
Well,
compass.
he the only reason for this reception scene is so we can see
Him be the wedding singer.
Yeah, Jason Bateman living his wedding singer fantasy, singing Eternal Flame, which is just magnificent.
I think he never liked his brother's fiance and resented
true.
her because him and his brother were always close. And then somewhere in middle school or high school, they started dating. And that's all they ever, like, he always had her as like a tag along. And it just really bothered him that he never got to like do fun stuff with his brother because here this girl was all the time. And then he was like, you need to live, Peter. You've only had one poon on. You can't do that. And that's where it is.
I love that backstory.
I mean, it's
for
an
them.
age-old story.
One poon on. So now Christina and Courtney are back in San Francisco. Christina starts to realize that she's kind of tired of the game. They're talking about it as they're walking back up to the apartment. They turn the corner and there's like a cop sobbing on the stairs. There's like so many specific groups of people just like outside the apartment, up the stairs, inside the apartment, like all walks of life. We got doctors, nurses, police officers, passerbys on the street, businessmen. Like it's a very eclectic group of people because Jane is stuck to hot guy and his penis is lodged in her throat because his piercing got stuck behind her tonsils. And no one knows how to get them apart.
But realistically, you would just be constantly gagging. Like she's sitting there so calm and stuck, but like you would be retching the whole time. I don't understand. I guess it's not made for us to understand.
Well, I think it's funny that Selma Blair says the only reason she thinks she got this role was by default because she was the only one who was willing to do the penis scene. And she's like, I'm totally down to have the penis in my mouth. I'm fine. And so in this scene, she has a banana in her mouth. And yeah.
Well, she wasn't gagging, so good on you, Selma Blair. Proud of you. So Christina comes up with an idea like sing a song and may relax your throat. And then it may just come out. So after a couple of bars of relax, don't do it when you want to get to it, he's like, I'm getting hard again. And so they have to switch gears. That was not an appropriate song to sing. And so then they start singing Aerosmith's I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. Did Jackie sing out loud along with the TV?
There's no
Yes, yes, she
question.
did.
No question about it.
And so Jane becomes unhooked from the penis and she's very grateful. She still had her bra on, which I find is weird. If you're already to the blowjob portion of the night, I feel like the bra would have already been off, but that was just a personal opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand that in movies, why people are having sex with bras. How did the action start? How did we get how did we I think maybe it might be because like the woman said like I don't want to be topless.
Yeah, gratuitous nudity.
But is it accurate? I don't know. Tell us, hit us up with the tweet or direct message. Can you have sex with the bra on and it's fine? I don't know. I just don't understand that.
I think that's the first thing that comes off, or you already have it off because it's like night time and you're not wearing your bra anyway.
Yeah.
I feel like, adults that never happens. Maybe if it's like teenagers and they're like still learning their bodies, but if it's like two adults that have been together, there's no way that a bra's on.
There's a routine, and part of the routine is the bra comes off.
Or if it's the real quickie and it's like, all right, I'm half dressed, let's just get this done.
Yeah.
Keep getting ready to go out to dinner or something. But not like a real, I'm with you guys.
Yeah. So now it's 3 weeks later. They're at brunch and they're meeting Courtney's boyfriend for the first time. He is a surgeon, some sort of doctor.
I love this. I love that he's so just normal looking and likable and understated. I like the casting here.
Who is this guy? Sorry.
I don't. She just met him. He's a nice doctor.
No,
type.
I just met in real life. Like I was always curious. He felt like he was the director making a cameo, but it wasn't the director.
Yeah.
James Mangold is his name, and he was also in the movie Night and Day with Cameron Diaz.
It's just so random, but okay.
Yeah. So what we noticed about the scene on rewatch is everyone's in like pastels and more muted color palette and more covered up and everything. Like this is the more mature group of gals.
It only took 3 weeks.
Only 3 weeks and a trip to Somerset.
Yeah, that timeline, I was like, wait, so Courtney admits that she wants to stop playing games, and 3 weeks later and they're talking as if like they're moving into with each other. Are you going to meet my friends? 3 weeks?
Right. Yeah.
This is why we're fucked up.
So unfortunately he gets a page. He has to leave, and they're talking to Courtney about how much they like him and stuff. And they're asking sex questions. And she's like, well, we haven't done that yet. And so they're all kind of like surprised at that. And she's like, I don't want to jinx it. It's going really well. So Courtney is super happy. And then when Christina gets home from brunch, she finds the book that Jane was reading in the beginning, the relationship propaganda book, shoved in the couch. So she starts flipping through it and browsing. And then Courtney and Jane come home and they find her crying on the couch that commandment number 10, she is thou shalt not fear. And that's what she's always running from, men and relationships. And anytime it starts to feel serious, she breaks it off and she runs away. And so we transition to Peter and his brother in Somerset. Peter's about to fly to Costa Rica on his honeymoon, and they're just talking about him going to Costa Rica. And Jason Bateman sits down with a bag of chips and he's eating them. And I think this is where this stems from, Heather. So he sits down with the bag of chips and Peter's like, those chips cause anal leakage, because it was right after the whole Olestra thing. So they were making fun of that. And the brother says, you cause anal leakage. And I'm pretty sure that's where we got the thing where we always just say, like,
repeat the thing that was said.
Yeah, like, you're a dog and pony show or whatever. Like like our
Yeah.
family is always taking something someone said and like just being like, you're blah, blah, blah. And I'm pretty sure this is the movie upon further reflection that we got it from.
Makes sense. Yeah. Is that a just us family thing? That wasn't like a cultural fad response. That was just something we did.
I don't know anyone else that does it. I mean, Ken does it now only because I've done it to him for 16 years.
Yeah.
We'll have to like hit us up on social if like you do that in your family or like with your significant other, or we're just biting off of Sweetest Thing from 20 years. And so at the same time, they're sitting out, they're having this conversation outside at like a little bistro. And they see Vera. I don't know what she's doing with the mannequins. They're in the road. I don't know if she's bringing them into the store or bringing them out for advertising purposes, or she's just having a stroll with her mannequin ladies. One is hit by a car. And so Peter and his brother go over to help her bring them back into the store. And as they're leaving, she's like, oh, Peter, you're going to Costa Rica. Do you want to be on our mailing list? And the brother's like, we've been trying to get off that fucking list since like since the 80s. And Peter doesn't have the heart to tell her no. So he's like, yeah, sure. And he's flipping through the book and he sees what Courtney wrote was Christina Walters loves Peter and then her address. And so he's like, there's a fucking chance. And so he travels all the way up to San Francisco. It's such a like weird, sweet scene, and it shouldn't work, but it does for some reason. So this is when Jane and Courtney actually come home and find Christina crying. And so they take her out to the club, or she wants to go out to the club because she's kind of like, I'll convince myself to have fun or whatever. And Christina and Jane are not into it because like Jane's over sleeping around and Courtney's in a committed relationship now. And Christina is out on the floor. It's the same guy from like the first night. They're doing the monkey. It's so fucking weird.
It's a lot of flailing in this.
So
in this
fucking
one.
weird. And then he asked for her number and she goes on, like, as she's writing her number down, she goes on this diatribe about how like, I used to sleep around, but I'm really trying to find a connection. And like, I hope we can find a connection, but if not, that's okay, blah, blah, blah. And finally he just gives up and walks away. And he's like, what does the guy have to do to get laid around here? And then the song turns to Ursher. And it's such an appropriate song. And it is like, that was another point. I just belted out the words like and sang along with this part.
So many of Usher songs from the 90s, and I don't understand why, but I just do. I know them.
Yeah.
I know them all.
I didn't have an album or anything.
What do you mean y'all don't understand why you know Usher
because
songs?
we didn't have any of his CDs, and we
I don't
didn't
remember
like,
being a fan of his. Like,
yeah.
But I know them all.
Owned that time period, from that time period of like the end of like the last few years of high school and college. It didn't matter if you had an album or not. He was on the radio all the time. He was on MTV all the time. He was on all these. Look at this movie. You didn't even realize he was in this movie. He was everywhere. Ursher was.
It's wild.
Everywhere. And his songs were bops. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I love listening to him. Like when I hear his songs come on, I'm like, man, it's so good. I love this. I didn't know I loved this song, but
so now they're returning home from a night of at the club, and they see Peter sleeping on the stoop. And so Courtney and Jane like sneak around him into the house, but Jane, as she's going inside, she turns around and like bends down right next to his ear. It's like, caw, caw, and like wakes him up and scares the shit out of him. And I was like,
I have a feeling. I wonder if that scene was improvised to like scare Thomas Jane, because it actually, you see Cameron jump, and I mean, obviously she's an actress. It could have been fake, but it felt like it was a fun take, and they just kept it.
I approve. I
Yeah,
enjoy
me too.
that little detail. So he tells Christina that he didn't get married, but then like they both kind of panic and like he walks away and Christina goes inside and then she's trying to hype herself up like, what am I doing? Give it a chance, blah, blah, blah. So she goes out and she goes after him and he has actually walked down the street, bought her a bouquet of flowers and has like convinced himself to turn around.
And thank God she turned the right way down whichever many twisty streets.
Yeah.
Like, how'd she find him?
Okay. What I thought was weird was when she told him to beat it, kick rocks like an idiot. She saw the direction he walked.
Mhm.
Why, when she realized that she should go find him, when she runs out, she goes the other direction. Well, no, she goes like this. I don't know which way he went. Bitch, you saw him go up that way. What are you doing right now? I did literally yell at the TV when she did that. The other streets, yes, that okay. You didn't see
Yeah.
him, so you have to guess. But not when you first got out, you knew where he went. That was annoying.
So they see each other and there's like a side street that Peter needs to cross to get to her. And so they're both at that side street and a taxi like drives by and splashes them. She's like, come on. And then they finally get together and they like are talking and then they kiss. What's odd about the rest of this scene is like she gives him such shit about the way he kisses. It is highly confusing. Like, is she serious? Is she playing with him? What's the end goal here? Because you've literally like driven round trip 6 hours to go see him and then have pined over him for 3 weeks. He finally shows up at your doorstep and you're going to be rude to him. Like, what the fuck is that?
I thought
It
she
is
was
a
just
strange decision.
I thought she was just joking around and just kept joking with him so they could keep making out. But
it didn't come off. It didn't hit the way it needed to hit.
But for me, with most rom-coms, when the guy and the girl finally have their get together, you feel like, oh, finally.
Yeah.
But for them, it was just such a small interaction with them. And it's not like, they didn't have bad chemistry because we've seen that. But it wasn't like, it wasn't
like
satisfying.
Yes.
So that I think that made that scene even more weird. And you're not committed to it. Now, if Courtney and Christina had made out, I would have been down for that. I would have been down for them getting together instead.
But it's like you said, is that, the story is really about the friendships, not about this budding romance necessarily,
Right.
Yeah.
I think they always feel like we need to be sealed with a kiss, and they made it weird and awkward. But I would have been totally fine if, the next scene where like they're standing across the street from each other, they kind of just gaze, and then we go to the next scene, you see him on the couch and still not knowing what happened, and then they're like laughing, they kiss really quick or whatever, and then their friends jump on I'd have been fine with that, because again, it was more about their friendship than it was even about this relationship.
Yeah. And so like Danielle said, the next scene is him sitting on the couch and like mirroring the beginning
with the fake documentary. The fake documentary that doesn't exist yet. It looks like Courtney and then is behind. It's so stupid.
And there's a puppet behind him on the couch mocking him, and then it's Christina, and then like he pulls her onto the couch and they're giggling, and then Courtney comes and jumps on and Jane jumps on, and then it focuses on, she did not get rid of the kitten picture, framed kitten picture, but next to the framed kitten picture is a picture of them on their wedding day, which that picture is perfect, except for it makes me sad because the doctor's not in it and Courtney is like holding a bottle of wine in the air, so it looks like pre-revelation Courtney rather than like post dating Dr. Happy Courtney.
I think
they get married within the last 3 weeks.
This is like, I guess this end scene is like they
years
set
later.
Somewhere in the future where Peter and Christina get married.
I kind of feel like maybe it's who was in the wedding party.
I guess so, yeah.
So that would make sense that he's holding her bag. He's at the table. Don't worry. Don't feel
Okay.
sad. He's there.
And then
They're
like
together.
the other, so she's on one side of Peter and Christina. On the other side is Jane, just like standing there and smiling. And then the brother behind her, like checking out her ass. So the picture is very, very perfect. And then we go into this kind of odd ending where it's like they're showing bloopers, which is fantastic. I love a blooper
I love
reel
bloopers.
during credits. But it's also breaking the fourth wall, staring at the camera and being like, you're still here. Why haven't you gone home yet? It's very like I could have done without all of that.
They do that. I think at that time they did that a lot. And even to the point of they did that in Mamma Mia, where they sing and then so I don't know what that's about, but yeah, it would have been great if it's just the bloopers and just call it a day.
Yeah.
And then so that is the sweetest thing. I did have an idea for a party. I was like, what if we had a Vera party and everyone just had to come dressed as something that Vera would sell in her shop?
That's a great idea.
That would be very fun.
Thinking back to Vera though, like when she made the comment about like I dressed half the wedding party or wedding guests or
Everyone
whatever.
was in beige.
Yeah, I'm like, what the
Yeah.
hell is all the crazy Vera outfits if that's the case?
Yeah, that didn't connect. You're absolutely right. I was very disappointed that we didn't see some more crazy outfits.
Dynasty outfits.
Yeah. Like missed opportunity again.
Yeah.
100%.
So fun facts real fast. Cameron Diaz was attached to the project from the start, but production had to wait while she completed Gangs of New York and then Vanilla Sky.
Yeah, she was
Wow.
doing both those movies, I think, at the same time, almost when she was filming those. It's kind of crazy.
And
Those are very
actors
dramatic.
crazy.
Yeah. And then both Christina Applegate and Selma Blair have since been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Selma Blair does have a documentary. I believe it's on HBO Max if you want to check that out, but she's very candid about her life with multiple sclerosis.
It seems like it's affecting her more than
Christina
Applegate
at this time. Yeah.
Well, I think Christina just got diagnosed, but she also had breast cancer in 2008. What she beat, but it's just insane.
For cancer.
Yep. And then other cameos, we had Nancy, the writer of the movie, as the vomit girl in the club when Peter's brother is inviting Christina back to the hotel for a party. And then Ricky Strauss, an executive producer, as the singing cop.
Also, Christina's mom is in the dry cleaning scene. She's the one who brings in all the kids, Christina Applegate's mom.
Oh, she's the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. And this movie absolutely passes the Bechdel test. They have multiple conversations about topics other than men. And there's definitely more than 2 named female characters in this.
I do very much like that this movie talks about women having a crush on someone and building kind of like a fantasy life in your head and how much you like that person right away without kind of making fun of it, that her friends fully embrace it and it's not, like you just met him, which is, it's nice because we do that.
I also love that this movie does not have a villain at all. Like it's just them trying to work out their own shit.
Yeah, totally.
And especially not have like a woman on woman hate crimes. You don't have someone that's just like completely jealous and trying to sabotage them on the side while they're trying to just figure their own shit out.
Yeah.
So,
and I like that they have careers, but it's not like a part of their personality.
Exactly.
We know that Courtney's a lawyer, but that's as much as we get into it.
I love there is one part. where she's kind of grilling Christina a little bit. I think it's about like when she's like, you were joking about it, but 50% of all jokes are rooted in truth, blah, 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 blah. And it just gave me very How I Met Your Mother, Marshall Erickson lawyered vibes, because Christina eventually was like, okay, you're right.
Laid it all out for her.
Yeah. So what was everyone's present day ratings, Heather?
Same. I would buy it again. I was just as tickled pink watching it again as I was when I was a kid.
I completely 100% agree. I was reading some of the reviews on IMDb and just like very indignantly being like, how are people rating this low? This movie is a treasure. It's so fucking quotable. Like it's been 20 years. I still quote this movie on a regular basis. It's just ingrained in who I am now.
And it's lighthearted, like it's silly. There's storylines and pieces that come in from nowhere and you don't have to think much about it. Like it's a movie that you can escape into and, you know, really just kind of takes you away. And the other thing I liked too is it's not so girly, silly or whatever that makes a guy not like it. Like it's raunchy. There's some good humor in it. Like Keith very much enjoyed it. He didn't expect to. Like he thought it was just gonna be something silly on the TV, but he was like legitimately laughing out loud, and it takes a lot for Keith to be entertained to that level. So it's a good movie to watch with couples too, because you can both enjoy it.
Yeah, it's superbly acted. There was not any one point where I was just like, oh, that actor or whatever. Like everyone nailed their role. And you really felt the camaraderie between the three girls, which was
for sure
so refreshing, because in a lot of movies you kind of at points feel them just going through the motions, where you never felt like that in this movie. Danielle, what's your rating?
It's a good question. Very, very good question. I think from a nostalgic standpoint, it's still probably a 5-day rental. It's funny to me because after all these years, I mean, I love rom-coms, and there's a bunch that I will watch over and over and over again. And this was one that I did not watch over and over again. But when I rewatched it, I wasn't like, oh God, this is fucking annoying. There were parts that I definitely laughed. It also helps that I am a huge Christina Applegate stan, so it's hard for me to not like anything she's in. Yeah, I think it's fun, and I do love that from a historical standpoint, it's one of the first raunchy female-led movies that opened the doors to what, Bridesmaids and stuff like that, because it got hammered when it came out. Like people were talking so much shit about it because they hadn't seen anything like that. Usually it was maybe a female would be in a raunchy movie, but it was always from the guy's lens. So it was nice to, keep that in perspective, because we've seen so much since then. It's hard to remember that there wasn't anything really like this before. So from that standpoint, 100%, it was ahead of its time. And so I'm thankful for that. So 5-day rental.
And that's how I talk to my friends. Those are the type of conversations I have with my friends. So it's nice to like have that reflected in a movie as well. I have a like potty mouth, and I like weird things like tickle me and make me laugh, and we have weird conversations about gross topics. And so I really appreciated that it was like a comedy on my level.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a keeper.
Well, if you have any comments or feedback, you want to suggest a future movie and talk about what you liked or disliked, have corrections. Heather's my correction queen. Blockbuster Video Stories, favorite moments. You can hit us up at our quick drop. There's a couple ways you can contact us for the quick drop. You can call on our Google Voice 909-601 and MLF 909-601-6653. You can also leave us a voice message at Anchor FM, or you can twat us at the Twitter, and we would love to feature you on a future episode.
And stay tuned for next week's episode. We're spending the perfect date talking about miscongeniality with our pod pals 30 going on 13. Buckle up. That one was a fun ride for sure.
It was a lot of fun.
And it's Sandy.
It is Sandy. I text messaged Heather halfway through, and I'm like, I have every single person on this podcast now just calling her Sandy.
She's so lovable, and she's just like the best
She's
friend.
so precious.
Sandy.
And as always, be kind and rewind.
Hey everyone, I'm Simone.
And I'm Bria.
And we're from Roll Call, a podcast where two friends gush over movies and follow an actor's journey from their early years through their blockbuster hits. Each season, Bria and I embark on an IMDb deep dive through the career of a different actor. Oh, but wait, does that mean you watch every movie?
Yes, that means every movie. Our first season, we watched every Jennifer Lopez movie, and our second season will focus on Will Smith, and we hope you join us on our journey through his career highs and lows. So follow us at Roll Call Pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and on wherever you get your podcasts.